Okay, this is quite a passionate subject amongst us all, I think. We went down a bit of a rabbit hole for the BP reliability and security, and we started to throw out ideas. Well, how can we measure what infrastructure a BP has? How can we reliably test that? But we bubbled it back up to, like, why do we actually care, right? You know, why is this such a passionate subject? And a bit of it is because obviously it's linked into the rewards. So, you know, we want to make sure we have a reliable, redundant, and stable chain. You know, someone soon is probably going to start filling up all that RAM and testing if we actually do have, you know, 64 gigs or more. A lot of people obviously may or may not fail, and the market dynamics should result in those BPs, you know, losing votes, right? And the legitimate ones who have the right infrastructure in place should bubble up to the top, because this should be a hierarchy predicated on competence, right? But we know, or we may not know, that some BPs are, you know, bad actors. You know, some may just be throwing up any old cloud infrastructure, voting themselves up, and they're just receiving rewards, kicking out legitimate, you know, standby BPs who are putting the resources, the time, and the people into ensuring that if they are voted up into that 21, that, you know, they will be able to reliably sign blocks. So, how do we actually measure this? Obviously, we can't have independent teams of, you know, security guys SSHing onto our boxes, right? I mean, our producing nodes are so locked away that, you know, probably even within our own companies, one or two people have access to it. So we can't do things like opening it up. But maybe, and an idea that we had was, could we have a smart contract that could kind of fetch system-level statistics and actually record on-chain? So we're trying to, like, publicize you know, this information without, you know, compromising security or putting too much faith into, you know, a couple of centralized parties. So in terms of how do we actually visualize this or make that information available to the voters and to the network, we were thinking maybe we could digest this information in a public microsite. So much like we have the bp.json, we have a few kind of BPs who do great validators where, you know, there's like a tick. The BPs who opt into this smart contract, obviously that's already a tick, right? It says here we've got nothing to hide. We could then actually show the statistics about what their infrastructure is, and again just allow the voters to make a much more informed decision. What we're probably not broaching here is, you know, if we find a BP who's, you know, entered into a contract by a reg producer and they don't in fact have the infrastructure that they claimed that they did, what happens to the funds that they have claimed? You know, is that something we should go after? You know, is that an ECAF arbitration issue where, you know, those funds should actually be requested back and then dispersed to the BPs who, you know, missed out? Again, you know, that's another rabbit hole that we could probably spend another 30 minutes or 30 days on. So the second piece to this was testing. So testing new releases of the EOS software. You know, we were all absolutely in agreement that we probably need a longer time period to make sure that, you know, new versions of the software are properly tested. This would be across public testnets such as Jungle, but we thought it's important that we would have to have multiple testnets that maybe did a certain type of transaction, so we can be, you know, assured that after 24 or 48 hours that, you know, various commands have definitely run, whereas, you know, something like Jungle is a much more public and indicative of a real chain and usage patterns. We have already a regression pack and acceptance test through the EOS test cave. So, you know, this is hooked into CI, so we at least get a nice set of green ticks that will always test the same things, just using, you know, it's a bash runner that will do, you know, nsig, reg producer claiming, or this kind of thing. But obviously, the more tests, the better. Again, you know, there's no kind of responsibility of a BP to upgrade, right? You know, because some BPs have run their own forks. You know, most of us will use the EOS mainnet, which is the kind of community maintained repo, and some use the official. So again, it's very hard for us to, you know, propose something that we will all agree on. You know, we could do 7 days minimum, but most of us can't get on a call or agree on a call. Getting us all to actually agree to roll a piece of code at a certain time is just not going to happen. Finally, testing of dApps. We talked about, could we have some form of certification around dApps that would at least allow the users to understand that a certain list of things have been tested. I mean, due to the very nature of the chain, we can see the code for any smart contract. It's already a level above the kind of black box of a traditional web app. But maybe if we had a certification too, that could really help with user adoption and so yeah.
Outstanding. Who's going to take this sheet and take it to the next level? Write it up, take action